This one is a Creative Kits tutorial for doing a little bit of watercolor. So if you've picked up your kit from the studio, you're going to find a little package of some mixed media items in there, some charcoal, some gel pens, a straw, things to be able to add on once you've got your drawing and your watercolor onto your paper. You're also going to find some lovely little tips. There's a little sheet about tips for starting off in watercolor, and it's adapted from strathmoreartist.com. Strathmore has some great art supplies, and one of the brands and companies I use here at the studio. And you're also going to find kind of a little pack of papers. So the first one you've got is watercolor paper. This is kind of my basic paper I like to use. It's 140 pounds, so it's heavier than kind of the starter watercolor paper that you can find. And with the watercolor paper, you're going to notice too that one side is a little bit more textured than the other. The textured side is the side you want to paint on. It's just going to work way better. Okay, so there's a couple sheets of that in there. You're also going to find some really heavy stuff. This is Bockingford 250 pounds, so it's almost like a board. It is a paper that is not going to ripple or buckle or anything on you. And you're also going to find a piece of graphite paper in there, and we'll get to that kind of right after our drawing tutorials. So that's the little package of paper and brushes, and you're also going to have a pack of watercolors. They might be some Finetec watercolors. I think I also have some Angora watercolors. These are all watercolors that I have used here in the studio and used myself for different things, and I'm happy with the color and the vibrancy, and they're a really good price for what you get. So you're gonna have that set of watercolors. Okay, all right. So the things that weren't included in the kit that you're going to need, some paper towel would be great. Often that's the one thing I forget to put at my table in my workspace when I'm doing a video tutorial. So I'm running around trying to get some paper towel if I spill or need to wipe my hands on something. I wear my favorite paint shirt quite often for these, but I'm not just gonna go and wipe my fingers all over my shirt. You're also gonna need a container of water. Even if you have a couple containers of water, if you're gonna do a lot of painting, it's really nice to have one container that has clean water, one container that has to clean your brush, so it's going to be the dirty water. And you're also going to need some brushes. Just for these little tutorials, whatever you have is going to be great, what you have at home. I like to use a natural bristle brush for watercolors. Something that's really, really soft is nice. It can be round or flat, so I've got a couple really soft, good watercolor brushes. I also have a couple of just nylon. The nylon ones don't hold as much water, so you just have to get more water and get more paint more often. Okay, and I think that's it. Okay, I'm going to flip the camera around and kind of have it over my shoulder, and we're going to do a couple little guided drawing tutorials, so you have something to play and practice with on your watercolor paper. So this first one that we're going to do is a little seahorse. I thought it would be fun trying to do a little seahorse in watercolor just because of the colors you get to use. You get to use a lot of cool colors. They blend really nice together, and you get to try lots of wet on wet techniques. So you're going to need a pencil. You can also have an eraser at hand. I don't have one right by me, but we're going to get started anyways, and I'm going to guide you through drawing your own. I'm doing a redo so it's a little bit closer up and more visible for everybody. We're going to start with a circle for the head, and the bigger the circle, the bigger your seahorse is going to be. I'm doing mine quite dark just so you're able to see it, but on your paper just do it light enough so only you can see it. It makes it a lot easier for you to be able to erase the lines. All right, so there's the head, and I put it closer to the top of the page, at least in the top half of your page. And then just below that, kind of about 2 fingers below that, we're going to do a big oval for the tummy. So it's going this way. No. Okay. The next step is to draw a connecting line from the top of the head down to the tummy. So now this is part of the neck of our seahorse. And that line is going to go all the way down around the tummy. And it's going to kind of curve back in, and then it's going to come into a spiral. There we go. Okay, so this now becomes the seahorse's tail. Okay, next step is to do a line straight out from the middle kind of side of the face. That's for the seahorse's nose. And at the end of the nose, you can do like a little oval if you like. I like to do 2 bumps, so I do 1, 2 like that. So it's right on that oval there. Okay, and from the bottom of that mouth, it's going to come back in and come down and connect to our face. Seahorses have a lot of texture to them. They're really bumpy and groovy and not a smooth animal like a fish would be. They actually look like a piece of coral to help them become camouflaged in the ocean. All right. So now at the top of their head, I'm going to do a couple little spines here. I'm going to start with one big one, almost like a unicorn horn right up here. There we go. And I'm going to do 2 more small ones in front. And I'm going to do 1 more small one behind. And then come around as a bump, and then a bump again here. Just kind of give it a little bit more of a point, like a square at the bottom of that there. Okay, so now we're going to add the back of our seahorse. So right up from the top of his head at this big long spike, we're going to go all the way down, just like a horse's neck would be. Down and around, and then keep going. I did a little bit of a curve there, and I'm going to follow right around and put this line right around this spiral that we did. Okay. So now, right on the seahorse's back, almost across from the tummy, we're going to add a fin. So I do a short line on an angle at the top, another short line on an angle at the bottom, and then you want to connect those two. And you get to decide what kind of line you want to use. I like to use a scalloped line, so it's got a whole bunch of little bumps in it, kind of like a fan. There we go. So now there's a few more details of lines for our seahorse. I'm going to come and grab an eraser, and I'm going to erase some of these lines that I had for the circle. See, my dark lines don't erase very good, but your line should erase much better if you had them a little bit lighter. I'm going to erase that one there. And I'll erase this tummy line here. There we go. And now, just for the outside of my seahorse, I'm going to add a few more of these spikies and spines. So starting at the top, I'm going to make those little scallops going the other way. So like little U's all the way down. Waves. And they're gonna get smaller as I get down to the tail. They're gonna go all the way around. Okay, and now even on the front of the tummy, I'm gonna make those little spines of my seahorse. Some more waves again. Looks pretty spiky. Not sure if I'd want to touch one of these guys. Okay, and I'm going to just erase those dark lines. That'll be a little bit lighter. And same on the back. Just those extra guidelines that we had for outlining. Okay, and now some of the details on the inside of our seahorse. I'm going to start with the eye. So I do one small circle, and then I'm going to do one great big circle. I have some pretty thick lines here, so I will outline this little creature once I've got them all painted. But it won't be very easy to try to erase those lines once I have paint on there. The pencil's kind of covered up by the paint. So I want to get anything I want erased, all done and erased now. Okay, so now the other few lines I'm going to add inside the body, just follow that nice wave of our seahorse right around to the tail. And I'm going to do a couple more. And then one more. And then in between those are some more of those scalloped and curved lines. It helps make our drawing look a little bit 3D, so our seahorse isn't so flat. Kind of like a spider web pattern. you've ever done a spider web. And finish that third row. And then just on the fin here, I've got that extra line. There's fin there. I'm going to add an extra little scalloped edge here. And then lines right to the body. There we go. And if you want, you can add lines in your background or not, because we'll just paint in a color. There's some more wavy lines. There we go. Even some little bubbles if you want. There we go. Now, that's a much easier drawing to see than the first one I had. I hope you had fun drawing your seahorse. I can't wait to see pictures. So the pencil's not going to wash away or anything. So I'm going to do this whole painting as a wet on wet technique. So it's a great way to practice that. I'm going to take one of my bigger brushes, get some water, and I'm going to paint water first. So I'm painting water all over the body of my seahorse. Just kind of keeping it on the inside of my seahorse for right now. There we go. And that first little bit of water is probably going to soak into your paper. Okay. And then I'm going to use a smaller paintbrush just to help pick up my water. So I'm going to do some pinks and some oranges and some yellows on my seahorse. You can make your seahorse blues, purples, greens, whatever you like. I'm going to do mine the pinks and oranges because I would like to do some blues around him for the water, and that makes for a complementary color combination. All right, so I've got water on my brush, and I'm gonna start with some yellow. I'm gonna start with my lightest color. So I'm gonna work my water around in my paint, and then I'm just gonna touch in some color. I'm dabbing it with watercolor. The water is what helps make it move. So the color will go wherever, you can see wherever the water is. So even though I put it right on the tummy, it's going to spread right out into the body. It's going to help with some blending of my colors. There, put it right around in the circle here. All right, and I'm going to pick up some orange next. I'm not going to worry about my fin yet. I'm kind of going in my spots here on my seahorse. I am going to outline all my pencil lines after. So it's okay if I paint right over them. There. I'm still gonna just do little bits of dabs. and I have a little bit much color there. And around its eye. Okay, now I'm gonna clean my brush again, pick up some more water. In between all my colors for watercolor, I make sure that I wash my brush. Put a little bit of red along here. And just adding my color, still kind of dabbing, not worrying too much if I'm in the lines I drew. And I can tell now my water I initially put down is starting to dry up a little bit. So I will end up adding a little bit more water. And that was lots of red, but I can clean my brush and just use a little bit more water to help spread it out. There we go. And I think I'm just going to take just a kind of wet brush, no color on it, and I'm going to remove some of that paint. So I'm just taking that clean brush, wiping it in my hand. Paper towel would be good to wipe it on too. And I think I want a little bit more orange in here. Okay, I'm going to worry about the eye after. I'm just going to do the fin now. I didn't want, the fin is so small that I didn't want my colors just to run into it. So I'm just going to use my smaller nylon brush because it's a smaller area. Water first, because this is the wet on wet technique, so you lay down water first. To take that orange and I'm just going to go along my lines here. Okay. And then I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow. I think I want some yellow in there. Just a few touches. And then right along this outer edge, I'm going to add a little bit of red. Just a touch. So one touch and one little swipe of my brush. And then I'm going to clean it off so there's no paint on my brush. And I'm just going to kind of spread it out. So, and just dabbing, just to make sure that all of the color does kind of go into the area that I want it to fill. So it stays wet for quite a while, and your watercolor is going to move until it's dry. All right, I want a little bit more orange down here. I really like orange. Okay, and my paper is quite dry, so I'm just going to use a little bit of water to spread it out. I don't use any white to make my colors lighter. I only use water. So the water will help my colors. The more water you add, the lighter they become. So it'll help my colors become lighter, and the less water I use, my colors will be darker. So I'm just going to do a little bit of my background. So all my background, I'm just going to paint water right around my seahorse, as close as I can get to them without touching the color that's there. If you want, you can wait until it's dry, but I want to just keep showing you the tutorial and get it done before I have to go make supper for my family. So if I do touch, you can see if I get too close to the paint and I touch where the paint is and it's still wet, it's going to move right out into my ocean area that I'm painting here. But that's okay. I'm okay with it. It's one of the beautiful things about watercolor. It kind of has a mind of its own. It likes to go and do the things it wants to do. This is a great way to play with color combinations and techniques. If you have a little bit of salt kicking around at home, this would be an amazing painting to try some salt on. Okay. Alright, I'm just going to get a little bit more water, make sure it's all wet. This is just a sketchbook I have that is mixed media paper. So it's not quite as heavy as the nice paper you have in your kits, but it works to hold the watercolor. If you're not sure if you have enough water on there or if you've covered all your spots, if you lift it up and let the light bounce off of it, you will see all of your shiny areas. And if it's shiny, that means there's water there. All right, so I'm going to go in with some blues, I think. I work from light to dark, so add just a little bit at first. Try not to get my arm right in front of my painting here for you. So you can really see how the watercolor spreads in the water. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of green. And you can do wavy brush strokes. You can go back and forth. I want to get more blue in there. I'm going to dab it as I get close to my seahorse. If you touch your seahorse, that's okay. You can also move to a smaller brush. I'm still using my bigger brush. It's because I want some bigger areas of color. I'm going to get some more dark blue down here. There. So if you happen to have some salt on hand in a cupboard while your painting is still wet, go run and grab it. And so this is just a coarse salt, really big grains of salt. You just need a really, really small amount, okay? And just take it and sprinkle it in a few spots here. Oh, my painting might have gotten a little bit dry already, but oh, no, you can see that is nice and wet up here still. A little bit here. My salt is changing color, so it's absorbing the pigment and the water and taking it off of my paper. So there will be a nice little, it looks kind of like a snowflake or ice on your window when it's all dry. I'm just going to touch up this area right here. Just take some water on my brush and I'm going to blend that in. Watercolor is not permanent. I can have this sit for a couple days and I can actually come back to it and I could lift off some color right off my paper just with a wet brush. So you want to make sure that your watercolor art is not in an area where it's going to get spilt on or splashed on, because it will get little areas of water droplets and water spots on it. There, just kind of fill those in a little bit more. And now I'm just going to wait for this to dry, and then I will add a few more details with my gel pens and my charcoal. Seahorse painting is all dry. I'm just going to give it a little brush here to get all of the salt particles that were left on it. Get those off. And I've got my gel pens here ready to go that are part of your kit. I even grabbed some markers. I've got some markers here that do some markers and some pencil crayons, a little bit of that. So I'll be able to add some pencil crayons in there. Your charcoal works great for darkening up the eye. So we're just going to get to it, and you can add any of those materials wherever you like. Even if you have some regular, like, nice dark black pens, they'll work great for outlines. So I'm gonna start with that and do a little bit of outlining. That's it. That is our mixed media seahorse.